All right. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever it is where you're calling from. You'll see in just a second that we have folks on the panel from all over the country right now, both sides, I should say. Thank you so much for joining us for today's collaborative mentoring webinar series. Today we'll be focusing on youth activism and wellness, prioritizing self-care as an act of justice. We have a really amazing panel of young people today at all different stages in their life who will be providing their experiences and expertise on this topic. As you're getting settled in, we'd love to get to know you all a little bit more. So drop your name and where you are calling in from in the chat. Make sure to hit the three dots so that you click everybody, that attendees can chat with everybody option so that others can see. But again, for folks who are just coming on in, welcome on in. We're going to give people maybe another minute or two to get settled. And as you're waiting, drop in your name and where you're calling in from in the chat. Happy October as well. Happy fall. Awesome. Starting to see folks coming in. Okay, so we got Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Kristen from there. Hi, Kristen. Thanks for joining. Bryce from Kansas. Alrighty, see, look at we're seeing Robin from North Carolina. Oh, okay. Now it's going super fast. Florida, Colorado, Phoenix, South Dakota, Ohio, Pennsylvania. I love it. For people who are just coming on in, thank you so much for joining us. My name is Jake Sullivan. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the Senior Manager of Field Learning at Mentor National. Here we're today with some amazing panelists that we'll introduce in just a second, talking about youth activism and wellness, prioritizing self-care as an act of justice. And as we're giving folks just another minute to settle in, feel free to drop your name and where you're calling in from. Virginia, North Dakota, Washington, Indiana. I don't know, I haven't been keeping count, but we've gotten a lot of the states covered. California, Maryland, Massachusetts. Awesome. All right. So I will move on to the next slide. Again, if you're coming in, welcome, welcome. For some tips for engagement. So you're all already doing one of the things, which is by dropping things in the chat. Continue to introduce yourselves, talk with one another, share resources that you have that have been helpful for you and your work. Also respond to the presenters. If you have reactions or comments or praise for our presenters, drop that all in the chat. So as of course, you can use the emoji feature on the toolbar as well. The Q&A box is where you'll put any questions that you have. At the end of the webinar, we'll have some dedicated time specifically for audience Q&A. And so ask the presenters questions there, upvote any questions that you'd definitely like to see answered. And again, try to make sure that the questions go there so that they're all consolidated in one place. As a reminder, the webinar is being recorded and it'll be sent out in 1 week with the slides as well. It'll also be posted on our website so that you can view it later, share it with colleagues, share it with friends. If you haven't already, live captions can be enabled by also clicking on the CC button on your toolbar so that you get captions throughout today's webinar. And then again, if you haven't already, click those three dots to select all panelists and attendees. One more thing to get to know you all before we dive into introductions. I'm going to put a poll on your screen that should ask you what your role in the mentoring field is. So I know a lot of us wear a lot of hats. Pick whichever hat you're wearing today or whichever one you're feeling best. But we just want to get a sense of who's in the room, whether you're a program staff or practitioner, a mentor, an educator, researcher, mentee, parents or caregivers. And I'll give you all about another 30 seconds or so to answer that poll. Another 10 seconds before I close the poll out, so get your answers in. I know sometimes, like I said, it can be hard to just choose one, but next time we'll do a multiple select option maybe. Awesome. All right, I will end the poll and share that out with you all. So it looks like most of us, about actually no, like about half are mentoring program staff and practitioners. We have a few national and affiliate organization staff. We have some mentors, a couple educators, a couple TA providers. We have some funders, some parents and caregivers. Always love to see you here. Thank you for being here. And then we have some folks who are other who didn't fall into any of those categories. So if you put other, feel free to drop in the chat what your role is. I'm always interested to hear those folks that fall into the other category, where you're coming from and how you're approaching this work. So I will stop sharing the poll results. Thank you for participating in that. And then I will move on to introduce our facilitator and the person who planned this webinar today, Dr. Nishan Battle. Nishan has been such a core part of the collaborative mentoring webinar series now for some time, at least a few years that I've been at Mentor National. And she's also the author of Black Girlhood, Punishment and Resistance, Reimagining Justice for Black Girls in Virginia. She's an associate professor at Virginia State University, principal investigator of the Stop School Violence Grant from 2019 to 2022. She's also a self-care coach and wellness consultant and certified yoga teacher and somatic healing practitioner, former board of directors member for Pretty Purpose, which is a mentoring organization for girls in the Virginia area, and then consultant for Mentor Virginia. And with that, I'll pass it over to Nishan.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on today's panel. I'm really excited. I have a former student of mine on the panel. I have one of my chapter sorority sisters as well, and also a teen youth leader with Pretty Purpose. And so, kind of an intergenerational thing that we have going on, and I'm so excited about that. And so, I will start off introducing Sean Sturdivant. Yes, 14 years old, high school freshman. We were talking about earlier, she had such a nice headshot. And, at age 14, I don't even think I know what a headshot was. She's the second year alumni leader with Pretty Purpose and has been with Pretty Purpose for 8 years. She shaped the idea for their mental health summit. And so she's already illustrated her leadership skills at such a young age. Her hobbies include reading, singing, talking about things that she's passionate about, and trying new things. And her goal is to become more confident and to also guide younger girls. So I'm so happy to have you here with us, Sean. Yes, yay, Sean. Next, we have Isamar Kirby, who again I said is one of my former students at the Virginia State University. She is a corporate risk analyst at Wells Fargo. Her senior thesis explored the different modes of learning after COVID-19, as well as additional research regarding hate crimes against the LGBTQ plus community. She's a former TMCF scholar, Strata HBCU Initiative Scholar. She was the president of the Emerging Leaders Program at the Gloucester Institute 2023 to 2024. And she also has a passion for mentoring youth, building community, and some of her hobbies include micro content creation, trying different food spots, reading, and daily walks. And then lastly, we have Sydney Owens, third year. Oh my goodness, time is flying. Third year studio art student, minor in law and politics and society at my undergrad institution, Cal State University, Fullerton. She is a student leader and activist committed to uplifting Black voices in predominantly white spaces. She is the president of the Omicron Mu chapter of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. She organizes programs that center empowerment, education, and cultural awareness. She champions spaces where youth can lead, thrive, and spark meaningful change. All righty. So now we are going to hop into the discussion, and I'm going to ask them questions which the audience will be able to see on the Zoom. Let me move my camera over a little bit. And then we will have time for Q&A after the panel ends. So please jot down any questions that you want to ask the panelists, because they really want to share, their expertise and their insight with you. So I will start off with you, Isamar Kirby. How would you define self-care and wellness?
Thank you for that question. And first off, I just want to say thank you to everyone for giving us some of your time today. And I hope this panel discussion is worth your time and you take away something from it. I would define self-care as anything that aligns with pouring into yourself. I think that there's no one cookie cutter definition that looks different for everyone. In terms of wellness, I think that that's any capacity in which you're taking care of your emotional, mental, physical, spiritual well being. So, wellness is purposely being intentional with bringing positivity and making yourself better in those spaces that I just named.
Thank you. Sydney, how would you define self-care and wellness?
I would also like to thank you for having me today, and also thank everyone for giving a bit of your guys' time. Me personally, I would say that self-care is like the act of intentionally tending to your physical, emotional, and mental needs, as well as like your spiritual needs. And wellness is like the state of balance that comes from constantly practicing that self-care. So they definitely do coincide.
Absolutely. And Sean, how would you define self-care and wellness?
Hi, and I want to thank everybody for coming to see us speak today. I would define self care as based on like what kind of person you are, or it's like about like the
Well,
sorry.
take your time. Take your time. We are all here for you.
I think it's all different for everybody, and it really depends on like what makes you happy personally and what you feel that you need in that moment. And wellness is like the the feeling and how you are after taking care of yourself and doing whatever makes you happy. It's like the positive outcome of that.
Oh, yeah. Good answer. Good answer. Thank you. Okay. And next, um, what are some of your favorite forms of self-care and wellness? I'll start with you this time, Sydney.
I'm a person who is finds solidarity in being artistic. So majority of the things that I do to practice self-care has to do with like drawing and painting. Just it gives me ability to allow maybe to put the emotions that I may be feeling at that moment into something, being able to create something out of what I am feeling at that moment, as well as like spending time journaling, going to the beach, and things of that sort.
Okay. And Sean, how about you? What are some of your favorite forms of self-care and wellness?
Me personally, I like to spend time alone. It's like my way of recharging after the day. I like to read, like in my alone time, I like to read, watch my favorite TV shows. I'll sing, I'll dance, anything that'll make me like relax after having like a stressful day or just being around people in general. I'll like to spend a lot of time alone.
I am so glad that you have acknowledged the importance of spending time with yourself and that you also even know about self care and wellness at this age. Again, at 14, I don't know if I knew what either term was. And back then, we weren't really talking about self care and wellness at all. So if someone would have asked me that, I wouldn't have had a remote answer for them. Absolutely. Yes. Time being alone. Yes, that's one of the comments from the chat. Isamar, what are some of your favorite forms of self care and wellness?
I would say for me, it's definitely changed over time. I think in the post grad stage that I'm in now, having my first job, I think that now I really have to be intentional with my self care and wellness because of the lack of time and because of how busy I am. I think that for me, I am getting into massages and facials for self care, for wellness, taking walks, has been really productive when the sun is shining bright and just absorbing that vitamin D and being outside with nature. I think that in today's world, that's not really normal, and a lot of people don't do that. But it's nice to step out into that realm that you might not be used to. I also like to journal, like Sydney as well. Reading as well, like Sean expressed, is great for me. I actually like to read more so Caribbean and Latin authors. That kind of aligns with my story, being a first generation American. And I think that their literary works are more aligned with my journey. So it's nice to see that in a form of a story that I can get tied into.
Absolutely. Do you find yourself journaling about your day-to-day activities, or do you incorporate any type of creative writing, such as poetry or short stories? How is your journaling experience?
That's a great question. I started journaling when I was in undergrad. At first, it kind of started off as really just a rant, honestly, of the day or the things that might have thrown me off, or just however I felt at that moment. I just threw it on the paper, honestly. But I think now that I'm a little bit older post grad, I think that I've kind of incorporated a little bit of the poems, a little bit of a short story, and maybe some haikus, or just kind of even reflecting back, reading those past journals as well, and making current journals about how much I've grown since then. So it's not just about today, but it's also about acknowledging the growth over time within the new journals.
For those who stated that they enjoy walking, is there a certain time of the day, or is there a certain scene that you prefer to walk? So, for instance, I love hiking. I was introduced to hiking when I lived in Texas, and I would drive 3 hours from Corpus Christi, Texas to Austin with this group that would center Black women, and we would have guided meditation hikes. And I just found it to be so peaceful to see the mountains, and then you would walk, you may see a waterfall or a pond, just the trees, excuse me, especially around fall, all of the different colors. That's something that, I love. And then out here in Richmond, Virginia, there are so many beautiful trails and places like Maymount Park and Henrico Historic Park. I mean, I can name so many where you almost feel like you're in a different state. And I've noticed how that imagery really helps to relax me. So I was just wondering if there's any particular scenery or time of the day that you prefer walking.
I would say for
Pretty.
me, it's definitely early in the morning, preferably when no one else is on the trail. And everybody has to get their walk in, and I know that, but I like being alone, even outdoors. I think being able to sit with your thoughts outside while you're seeping in the scenery, it has like a double whammy effect. I think it has to be very bright for me. And I've even incorporated my walks alone, but also walking with a friend, maybe a friend that I haven't seen the whole week. We've done walks every Saturday at 8 a.m., something to debrief from the week of corporate America and the week of post grad, and just to catch up. And that's kind of been the spin that we've done on girl time instead of the usual shopping or binge watching TV or food spot.
Okay. Anyone else? Favorite scenery or time of the day for walks?
Personally, I would say that my favorite scenery or time of the day to be out in nature, period, would be sunset. Around the time of sunset, to me, it just feels very tranquil to be able to watch, the sky transform from, being all bright and things like that. And then it just the sun going down, and then in California, the sunset is always just so beautiful. So that's one thing that I definitely enjoy.
For me, I like since I get up really early for school in the morning. When I walk to the bus, we usually have a really nice sunrise. And I have to walk a little bit to our bus stop. So I always enjoy watching the sunrise in the morning. That's really nice.
Yes. I'm just curious, do you all listen to music when you walk, or do you like it silent?
I don't listen to music, and I think that's really out of my norm because I like to call it a musicaholic. Listen to music all the time, all different genres, in my car, after a shower, during the shower. Like, I'm blasting music all the time. And I think that's part of the Gen Z in me as well. But I make it a point to be silent on the walk so I can hear my thoughts and really sit with what I've been through during the week.
I can agree, but depending on my mood, for me personally, I am a person who also likes to listen to podcasts. So, majority of the times when I'm out, like and about, trying to take in nature, I'll probably put in a good podcast in my ear and, just take everything in that aspect.
Oh,
I haven't really been on a walk in a while, but when I used to love like playing music. I love music. I play music almost all the time. I'm always singing. I guess it came from that. I used to sing a lot even when I was little. So I do listen to music with basically almost everything I do. And if I'm not, I'm singing it. So
that's good. I see in the chat we have a lot of people who enjoy walking and different scenery, music, walking in nature, YMCA. Go YMCA. I teach yoga at YMCA. Sunsets in the fall are so nice. Ooh, fire pits with friends with s'mores. Oh, yes. Oh, so nice. That is wonderful. We also had a question in the Q&A. And again, audience members, please feel free to send questions and I can incorporate them into our webinar. We had a question for those who enjoy reading books. Did you have any favorite titles that you would like to share?
That's a great question. I think for me, I kind of had to, just to be transparent, after undergrad, I was a little tired of reading, but then I was like, there's different types of books, and you don't always have to read a nonfiction piece. You don't always have to read a piece that you're used to, that you were reading in class and things of that nature. And I definitely had to make the switch from um my teen years to that adult nonfiction, different literary works. Like I said earlier, I'm definitely diving into the Caribbean and Latin American author space of it all. I'm half Jamaican and half Panamanian, so that's where that comes from. I think that I purposefully like to read stories that speak to me and my experience. I'm reading a book right now. I think it's called Black Cake. It's really good. If that's not what it's called, I will put the real name in the chat if I'm mistaken. That's really good. Viola Davis's autobiography was amazing. Michelle Obama's recent book, I forget the name of it, something light. That was really good. What else? I think that's it.
Yeah, I know sometimes off the top of your head it's a little difficult. I just happen to, in my little chase section of my couch, I have everything like my whole life is over here. So I have a few that I was reading off and on. The Heart of a Woman and Other Poems, written by Georgia Douglas Johnson. And then also Faithfully Yours, Jesse Redmond Fawcett, Stories, poems and personal essays. Both of those writers were like early 20th century writers. I've always kind of had a fascination with like 19th century and 20th century writers. It just, takes me to a place where of course I clearly wasn't born, but just to know how life was then. Now, a more contemporary book that I recently read, and it's called Razor Blade Tears by S.A. Cosby. And he's also a Richmond, Virginia, or either he's a Petersburg, Virginia native. And his writing is like you feel like you are watching a movie. It's a thriller, it's, you know, it's drama, it's mystery and all of that, but I thought it was really good. But I go back and forth between reading calm poetry and short stories because that's also what I like to do to write. But then I also will find myself switching all, you know, the way over into a more thriller type book. Any other books, if you just know off the top of your head?
I personally have an author that I am a really big fan of. I'm a person who likes to read romance thrillers. I'm not I don't know if I'm the only one, but Colleen Hoover, she's one of my favorite authors, and one of my favorite books by her is called Verity. It's actually being made into a movie within the next couple of years, if anybody's heard of it. But yeah.
Me, I don't really have a favorite author, but I do stick a lot around the romance and rom-com type genre. I really like romance a lot.
Good, good. All righty. It is slipping my mind, but when I was a teenager, like there were all these like teenage like books series that were just for like teenagers, and they were in oh, Sweet Valley High. Aging myself. But I used to love that series. That was so much fun. I don't know if teenagers have like a
Yeah.
little series or anything like that now, but that's what we had in the 90s. Okay. All right, we'll go on to the next question. So, what types of community engagement do you participate in that makes you feel in community with others? I'll start with you, Sean.
Um, I spent a lot of time with Pretty Purpose, and to be honest, we've done so many community projects. Even from when I was in like the Pretty Purpose circle groups, we did so many things involving the community, and I get to do even more now. But I think the mental health summit and the career fair last year was definitely when I felt like a part of the community. And I got to help out a lot with a lot of the planning, and I got to be a part of it too. So it was really fun. And I just felt really proud of like what all of the alumni leaders and us had like accomplished, and to see like all of our work come into like real life. It was really fun and exciting, and I felt really proud of that.
I bet you came up with the idea. That's amazing. Can you share just a little bit about the Mental Health Summit for those who weren't able to attend? What types of things, activities were happening?
Oh, sure. We had it was different types of rooms where you could go into, and it all had like different lectures and interactive things that you can join in. And I went to, I want to say, almost all of them. There was one room where you could get up and you could do yoga. That one was really fun. I can't remember who came up with that one, but but I remember being super excited about that one. That was super cool. And we also had a room that had a lecture about microaggressions towards like Black girls. And I really felt like really connected to that because I spent a lot of time in Prince George, and I did experience a couple of microaggressions towards me.
Mm.
And it was nice to know that it wasn't just me either. So, and we also did have food trucks. So, and the food was amazing, by the way.
Oh,
Now,
yes.
we
Yes,
had to
indeed.
make sure everybody ate, of course. Uh,
Yes.
we had a bunch of different like activities where everybody got together and we did a few activities. We did a couple icebreakers in the beginning, and near the end, everybody, where it was wrapped up, we had a Q&A where everybody got asked questions, and all the alumni leaders were on a panel, and we all helped answer questions, and we encouraged everybody else to answer questions. And like how everybody just like was really like nervous to ask questions at first, but like once one person starts, everybody else does. And it was really nice to see like hands going up and everything. And of course, at the end, we handed out gift bags that everybody helped design. So
that is what I love about the organization Pretty Purpose. I say all the time that I live vicariously, through you all. I wish there was an organization like Pretty Purpose, when I was around your age. That organization is doing so many things for the community all over the Richmond, Central Virginia area. And again, don't take lightly the position that you're in. You're really, you're big time, Sean, I tell you. And you are really in a position right now that is going to continue to help to continue to evolve and push you towards leadership in the future. So again, kudos to what you're doing in the position that you're in. Isamar, what types of community engagement do you participate in that makes you feel in community with others?
Yes, so like I mentioned earlier, I am a first generation American, so I think I hone in on my Latin and Caribbean community. When I was in undergrad, I was president of Si Se Puede. That's the first and only Hispanic organization at the Virginia State University. Was president 2 times, actually. So we made it a point to really educate the predominantly African American college about the Latin experience, and specifically the Afro Latino experience as well, and to mesh the worlds. We don't have to be separate. We all go to the same school. The more we are together, the greater numbers, the greater power. So I think that we had a lot of events on different Latin cultures and how, Latinidad, it's not a monolith. We're not
Mm-hmm.
all one country. It's many different countries, many different experiences, many different paths and journeys, right? And I think for me, I learned through that type of community engagement that even if something is not your experience, to still acknowledge it and respect it and to give it light. And I think that I carry that sentiment with me now through post grad. And obviously, now that I graduated, for me, I like to give blood a lot. That's something small that everyone can do that a lot of people don't realize. I also give platelets out as well. Just recently started doing that. And I also like to volunteer with anything school. So I kind of have like a friend who's like my volunteer friend, and we just go do stuff. And she's always doing something. And I always tell her, whenever you find out about something, text me and we'll go do it together. So for back to school, we did a drive with the NAACP here in Charlotte. We went to an apartment complex and handed out free supplies, free books, free toys. And it was beautiful. We did an elementary school cleanup about a month after that. And so I think for me, the types of community engagement that make me feel community are the ones that speak to my experience, being a multicultural person and having so many different facets to me. I definitely have to touch all of those in some capacity.
I am just beaming with pride because I remember how active you were as an undergrad student. And so to hear that you have continued that post grad just is music to my ears. And what country are you from, or in your
Yeah,
family, your
so
heritage?
my mom's from Panama. She's actually in the chat. Shout out to her. Love her down. And my dad is from Jamaica. So I'm kind of tricultural, I guess, because I'm also American. So I kind of like to bring that perspective to the table and to let people realize, you can be all of you at once. You don't have to pick a part of you, and you don't have to explain things to people. You can just be who you are. And that's why I said, respect people's experiences and their perspectives, even if it's not your experience. So yeah, big up my mom in the chat.
Awesome. Yes, yes. I see your mom in the chat and VSU representing as well. Sydney, what types of community engagement do you participate in that makes you feel in community with others?
Well, as a member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, I definitely have my hands in a lot of different pots when it comes to organizing and leading different events that are like centered around wellness, sisterhood, and empowerment. So, participating in like different on-campus initiatives, making sure that my immediate community is served to some capacity is something that is very important to me. I have been a part of different initiatives on campus, like the Royal Recharge, where we have basically a study night, and we come back right before finals, where everybody probably has their head all places except for thinking about trying to get their grades that they need to get for these classes and things of that sort. So we come together and try to make that a little bit less stressful, as coming together and bringing our community together and being able to talk about maybe the frustrations that we may be having in these classes at this time, giving all your community an outlet to be able to come to. That's one big thing. And then also volunteering for different service projects that have a lot of emphasis on like education and youth engagement as well.
Absolutely. Sounds wonderful. Absolutely. I'm down with greater service, greater progress. All righty. Let's go on to the next question. Okay, let me just move. Oh, what are some issues you have observed with the demographic that you work with or that you're just in your community that warrant the need for self-care for you and them? And let me know if you don't understand the question, if I need to rephrase it in any way. Do you all understand the question?
Yes.
Okay. We'll start again with you, Sydney. What are some issues you have observed with the demographic that you work with or that you're in community with that warrant the need for self-care for you and them?
Being that I surround myself with a lot of people of color, the one thing that I can say amongst a lot of the people that I am friends with is that academic burnout in students of color does show up a lot because of the fact that we feel the feeling of imposter syndrome at times, and often feel the need to overly prove ourselves when we are in situations. And so that, can lead to a feeling of overcompensation. And then when you're overcompensating, you're not doing enough, self-care and thinking about, how that could, affect your wellness. As well as like, different emotional fatigue when it comes to navigating Sean had brought this up earlier, microaggressions and things of that sort, or any type of, performative diversity on campus.
Understood, understood. Sean, how about you? What are some issues you've observed with your demographic that you're surrounded by?
I definitely say in schools, it may not look like it now, but I do have like a bit of anxiety with like anywhere that I go, anywhere that I am. Like right now, I'm like extremely nervous, but
You're doing great.
thank you. Um, I would say that judgment is a big issue with me personally, and I feel like that warrants a lot of self-care for me because all of that judgment puts on a lot of stress on me, and I say that warrants a lot of self-care.
Yes, absolutely. And as you see, the chat, they're loving you. Yes. And so you are doing great. Again, I reiterate, you are 14 years old on a panel with a post grad and a current college grad student and you just are at the beginning of your high school career, a journey, shall I say. And so please give yourself credit because I tell you, you're doing it. Isamar, how about you? What are some issues you have observed with the demographic you work with?
Yes, I'll answer the question in a second, but I just want to say, Sean, you're doing amazing and give yourself grace. And I feel like the fact that you can even identify what you're feeling and sit with that and still push through it and still show up as your entire self and give it your all speaks to how wonderful you are and how wonderful, more wonderful you're going to be. So keep your head held high, and I'm proud of you, you know. But back to the question. I think that for me, the top two issues I would say is burnout and imposter syndrome. I think for me, working in corporate America, right? I think that I know that I got there. I know I'm qualified, but I feel as though sometimes I battle with a little bit of feeling in competition with my peers, or I feel as though it's a lot, right? And I think that, you know, I'm not even 6 months post grad. So I feel as though really I'm still kind of dealing with a little bit of the burnout from undergrad, as well as now that I'm getting my master's, it's a lot going on, right? So I just feel as though those are the top two issues, burnout and imposter syndrome. And I think that that warrants a lot of self-care, not in just the traditional forms that we know it, but in having conversations like these and calling out what you're feeling, calling out, you know, the things that you're struggling with. And I think that that way people can come and help you. I see in the chat, can you speak more into the imposter syndrome? Of course, Shane. Okay, great question. I think for me, right, when you're in a space that predominantly doesn't look like you, I think that imposter syndrome is heightened rather than if you were in a predominantly Black, for me, or POC space. And I think that you also have to realize that imposter syndrome, it's real, but it's also, you have to put it in check. And I think that for me, the way I do that is reminding myself that I'm sitting in this very spot for a reason. I got here for a reason, and not just through me, but through all the people that helped me get here. And I think that the way you dispel the imposter syndrome is reminding yourself to make yourself proud and to do what you have to do for yourself first, and then for those people that helped you along the way. So I don't know if that summed it up enough, but if you want me to go more in depth, just put it in the chat and I'll be happy to.
I think it did. And I love all of the comments that I'm seeing. They're saying all the panelists are great. They're saying they didn't know that this was the webinar that they needed to see today. And that's what we want. I love it. We're going to go on to the next question. Okay. How could your institution or job assist with incorporating self-care and wellness within their spaces? So I'll start again with you, Isamar, because you were just talking about your job. How could your job assist with incorporating self-care and wellness?
So I firmly believe that Wells Fargo does an amazing job with acknowledging wellness and self-care, even in a corporate space and outside of work as well. And I'm not just saying that to sound PR, but I really believe that. And I think post grad, when I was looking at opportunities and the things that I wanted to dive into and which job I was ultimately going to take, one of the top things on my list was, do you view me as just a number or a quota, or do you view me as a person that's bringing something valuable to the table that ultimately you need, right? And so I think that, you know, Wells Fargo offers a free 6 sessions of therapy. They also offer a lot of other wellness benefits. They even do, in my building, they do sound bowl therapy on Fridays. They have yoga in my building. They also have a gym in my building. They have a lot of different benefits that I think that more employees need to take advantage of. So I think that that's Wells Fargo. But in terms of my alma mater, VSU, VSU was very big on mental health. We have mental health wellness days where classes are canceled campus wide. Teachers can't assign you work on that day. It's different if you already had the assignment, you just didn't do it. But they can't assign you work. And I think that's roughly about 4 to 5 times a year. They also have a free, I think it's 6 or 8 sessions of therapy on campus. They have a 24/7 counseling hotline. They have sleeping pods in one building. So they have a building called Memorial Hall that's designated to the mental health, self-care, wellness of it all. And I was in there frequently during undergrad, and I think I met some of the best people in that building. So that's kind of how my former institution and my current job assists with my self-care and wellness.
So interesting. I used to be a phone banker for Wells Fargo shortly after I graduated from undergrad. And so you're on a whole different level with your position. So again, kudos to you. Sean, how about you? How could your institution, meaning your school or any other institution that you're involved with, church, in any involvement that you have, how do you believe that they can incorporate self-care and wellness in their spaces?
Well, for school, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, we have counselors and all of that, but I've never really been to a counselor, and I'm still getting used to like being able to like go to other people for when I want help or I need help with something. But on the pretty purpose, I think they already do a really good job with mental health. They did really help me, I mean, a lot, especially when I like transitioned from like elementary to middle school during that year, and this year too, because I did move to like a new district, and this is my first year in high school on top of that. So having Pretty Purpose has helped with that too a lot. And but for schools, I'm not exactly sure. I guess that they should do more check-ins on the students. That would definitely be a large help. I would have definitely been like super happy to have that like a year or two ago. So yeah.
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah. Pretty Purpose. I believe the founder of Pretty Purpose is on our webinar today. Shout out to Bianca. Absolutely, for all the great work that you're doing. Sydney, how about you? How could your institution incorporate
Um,
self-care and wellness?
Personally, I think that Cal State Fullerton does a pretty good job of, making it known that mental health and wellness and self-care is very important. My school has 3 different facilities that fall under the Titan Well or Titan Health, thing, and each branch has something that can contribute to either self-care and wellness. But one thing that I can say that would assist this, like, trying to like help with this pipeline, is normalizing the conversations about rest, like burnout, and the conversation about being able to like go to therapy in classrooms and around like campus leadership. Because still right now there is some sort of like stigma towards it. And so it would be a lot easier if we become less, or more desensitized to the fact that that could be like, something that is negative, because it's not ever really.
Absolutely. Very good. Let's go into our next question. What are specific challenges students face regarding self-care? Who do I want to go with? Any, mini, money, mo.
I'll
We'll
go
go with
first.
you again, Sid. Oh, okay. You can go ahead, Esmar.
Yes, I think the number one thing that popped into my brain was money. Um, I think that, nothing is cheap now, right? and self-care falls under that. I think maybe if schools incorporated some type of mental health stipend, or maybe that slid into the fees that you got to pay with the tuition, or whatever they have to do, right? I think that money is definitely the number one challenge. And I think that a lot of students don't want to say that because of shame and because of judgment, like Sean said. And I think that self-care isn't just, going to Target and getting a face mask, but it's also like Sydney said, maybe acknowledging the fact that, hey, this happened to you. Let's say early on in your college career. Let's say it happened freshman year and you never really dealt with that thing that happened. Acknowledging that, hey, maybe there needs to be professional help here. And I think that a lot of people avoid that or just don't get the help because of money. So I would say that's the number one issue.
How about you, Sydney?
I definitely agree with the fact that financial insecurity adds a lot of stress and it limits access to health resources. So that's definitely a big thing that I can agree on. But for me personally, one thing that I can say is because of the fact that I am a person who enjoys being busy and enjoys spreading myself to pretty thin to a certain extent. Balancing work, being a part of clubs, being a part of a sorority, academics, leadership responsibilities, it can become a lot when you're not finding the time to be able to wind down and pour back into yourself after pouring into so many different other people. So that is one thing. And then just trying to navigate also with that, telling yourself that you don't have to be a person that does everything. No is a complete sentence.
Mm-hmm. Sure
So-
is. How about you, Sean?
I'd say knowing where to start with self-care. I grew up, I know I always like had an idea of what self-care was, but it took me a long time to figure out what self-care is to me and what works for me and what makes me feel good. So I say that a lot of people struggle with like, yeah, I know what it is, but like, what do I do? Like, how do I make self care about me? What makes me happy? What makes me feel good? What recharges me after a hard day?
Absolutely. Next question. What types of violence, if any, is present in your school and or community that leads you to prioritize self-care? Sydney?
Personally, I have experienced different microaggressions or like racialized discriminations that, slowly wear down on your self-esteem and your sense of belonging, which can definitely, pour into the fact that imposter syndrome is a thing. And then when you feel these type of things, it makes you question whether or not you're worthy to be in a space. And so
Understood.
that as well as like gender biases as well.
Yeah, and it's a lot going on in California, right? I mean, across the entire nation, but yeah, I can see that. Sean, are there any types of violence, if any, that are present in your school or community that leads you to prioritize self-care?
I wouldn't say there's any violence, at least not at my school now,
That's good.
but I do say it could just be me, but I would say like judgment, fear of judgment a bit is kind of like a violence to me
Mm-hmm.
and a few of the other people that I know. And and microaggressions, like I said earlier, I had quite a lot of those at my old school, especially my middle school. There were a lot of microaggressions. And like there was one time I was in the hallway and a girl had randomly came up and touched my hair. My hair was out that day, by the way. That and I noticed that it happened like a lot. And and I would hear stories about it, but I never expected it to like happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
And there was also like a bunch of racial comments back when I was in Prince George District 2, and I didn't even realize it for a while, but it did wear down on a lot of my confidence for a long time, and it did take me a long time to realize like how it really did affect me over time. So.
Understood. I'm glad that you've acknowledged it. So now that different ways you may want to address it and tools of self-care and wellness that can help you with that. Isamar, how about you?
I think for me, when I see the word violence, my mind automatically goes to the murder of the young woman on the light rail here in Charlotte that happened, I think about roughly a month now or so. And I'm sure many of you saw that on the news, or maybe you haven't. But I think for me, seeing that recording, it definitely made me fear for my life. And I think that that led to self-care in a sense of safety. Um, I would just be honest. I went on Amazon when I saw the video, ordered an alarm, ordered a pepper spray, a taser, anything that I could use to defend myself, because I think that the way that it happened was very shocking. And I think that it made me realize that self-care isn't just taking care of your exterior or your interior, but it's also making sure that you're safe and that you're here tomorrow. So I think that for me, seeing that was very daunting, especially because I'm a young woman as well. And I think that I've always been very self-aware, aware of my surroundings, things of that nature. But that made me realize to be even more so, don't think that you can slip up, or always be on your toes, always be ready for something to happen. And so I think that just made that sense even more canny.
I completely understand. Um, what do we have? Jake said, self-care is also about making sure you're safe and here tomorrow. Yes, an amazing and important piece to uplift. He was saying, what you said, basically reiterating it. Self-care and self-defense. Absolutely. I mean, that is a part of our self-care. I'm actually, as I was telling you all before, we started the webinar, that this weekend I'll be in training to learn to be an instructor for body combat, also at the YMCA. And so self-care, self-defense, they go hand in hand at times. Yes, indeed. Okay, next slide. How has your definition of activism evolved as you have learned to take care of yourself? I'll start with you, Sydney.
For me, activism once meant constant action and output, but as I have immersed myself in it a lot more, it's more about intentionality and longevity. And I can say the same thing about the way that I, feel about self-care. I've learned a lot of different sustainable like changes to make to my self-care as well. And then the activism also includes joy, rest, different boundaries, and saying no when your energy is depleted. So those have all helped me learn how to take better care of myself.
I remember thinking that activism only looked one way, that it meant that I had to have a poster and marching in the streets, and I learned that it doesn't have to be that way. It can be through my writing. It can be through leading yoga classes. It can be leading inner peace circles and meditation circles. And so that's how it has evolved for me, for knowing it doesn't have to just look one way. Another person in the chat said that they used to think activism meant speaking up whenever they saw wrong in action. And now they realize that it isn't always going to make a difference. And you have to think about how to approach it in a way that's not going to sabotage you. I agree. I used to think that I had to address everything and I had to stand up for everyone. And and then you turn around and you're like, well, now who's standing up for me? And so, and of course myself, and again, that's where that self-care comes in. How about you, Isamar? How has your definition of activism evolved?
I think that this question is so important for a multitude of reasons, because I have this saying that I say, I can't be MLK every day, right? And so I think specifically being a Gen Zer and trying to shift some of those perspectives within my own generation, but also in the older generations, it can be tiring and it can be self-deprecating at times, right? And I think that for me, I had to realize that when you're pouring into people and when you're having these decolonialization conversations and getting away from things that have been embedded in us for hundreds of years and decades, you have to speak to the people that are willing to go with you. So the people that are not willing to change and the people that are okay with saying things that are derogatory or depict self-hatred or depict colorism or texturism or featureism, those different things, right? You kind of just, at some point, you just have to, I don't want to say let it go, but you have to realize that, this person is comfortable in their ism. And me talking and me bringing up the historical points of views and things of that nature, unfortunately, it's probably not going to change this person's mind. However, that doesn't mean that you stop doing what you're doing as a whole, having webinars, like you said, having circles, bringing attention and awareness to this issue, right? You still do that, but I think that you can't be MLK every day. Like I say, you have to really, you have to hit it where it's some type of, okay, this is going to change over time. We're going to get some type of oomph here, if that makes sense. I don't know if put it in the chat if you understand what I'm trying to convey.
I get it. I get you. Now, Sean, I know that you're the youngest one on the panel, and so I don't want to assume. Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't, but has your definition of activism evolved at all as you have learned to take care of yourself?
I would say a little bit. I used to think that activism was getting up, it was like all protest and you have to stand on the stage and speak about everything that you believe in. But to be honest, you really could just talk about it. That's activism. You could just talk about it. You could write about it. You could really just talk about it. I mean, I talk about the things I believe in a lot.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I see someone said you have to save your energy and pick your battles. I do see one question in the Q&A queue. I'm going to hold off on that question while we get through some of the rest of our questions as we are gearing up to wrap up in about 20 minutes. So the next slide, please. What are some creative or unconventional ways you have seen young people practice activism and wellness at the same time? How about you, Sean?
I haven't really seen too much, but I do remember one time back when I was in the circle group, back when I was in the Pretty Purpose circle groups, that there was a girl named Mila that it came and she did mental health boxes where basically it was a bunch of calming things like squishies, fidgets, it was a journal in there, stickers, and lavender oil. And she came in and she spoke about it, and I was like, whoa, that's really cool. And I think I did do like a small interview for it, but that was a long time ago. I don't remember where it is. But I thought that was really cool, and it was like one of those vivid memories I have from Pretty Purpose circle groups and about activism. So
When I see this question, I immediately think of my students at VSU. I'll give them a prompt and I'll say, you all take it in the direction that you want. So if they were presenting a chapter, I'll say, well, your prompt is to create your own podcast, or your prompt may be to create a documentary. I'm not going to give you extremely detailed directions because I want to see exactly where you're going to take it. And over my 10 years there, I tell you, they have taken it in places far beyond what I ever could have imagined. With that being said, Isamar, what are some creative ways that you have seen young people practice activism?
Yes, like you said, I remember those classes. My favorite class is ad state, by the way, and I always say Dr. Battle is my favorite professor
Oh,
from undergrad. And I think that not having that cookie cutter rubric and that, really I'm kind of giving you, here's how to do it, right? I think that that allowed us to tap into our creative sides as students, but also to hone in on the chapter, to hone in on biological racism, to hone in on whatever we're covering, right? And I think that it's interesting to see what my classmates would do. I remember us going out into the campus. It's homecoming, going out into an event, interviewing students, seeing what they think, right? And I think that in and of itself is activism because you're triggering other young minds to start thinking about these things and to start thinking about, hey, maybe this is something that we need to talk about tonight at girls' night or things of that nature. But I think on another note, my hairstylist, when I was in Virginia, she did a Pilates and ponytails class where they did Pilates, but she also taught her technique on how to get the best ponytail to people for a very low price. And for me, that's activism because you're teaching how to make coin and how to monetize your skills. And I think that usually you don't get that from a hairstylist. Usually they're just charging you the rate, right? They're not teaching you the gems that they do, right? And so that was so successful. And she does a lot of things like that where she's pouring back into her clientele and beyond while doing a Pilates and things of that nature. So that was probably the coolest way I've seen it so far.
that does sound unique. Sydney, how about you?
One thing that I can say is we are in a day and age of using social media for everything. And so I have seen a lot of, using social media for affirmations, education, research sharing, being able to get things out to a larger capacity than you may have just be by just informing your immediate community, which definitely I feel like can help with both activism and wellness.
Absolutely, absolutely. Use the reach of social media. Use it in a positive way when you can, and should always use it, never for negativity. You have a question, Ixamar?
I just wanted to plug the hairstylist. The Anointed Touch on Instagram, Sharonda Goodman. She is really good. Quick weaves, sew-ins, ponytails, great service. Takes care of your natural hair as well. She's great. And tell her Isamar sent you. And if you want me to put the handle in the chat, I will for those of you in Virginia.
Yeah, go ahead. Put it in the chat. Yes. Okay. Let's go to the next question. What challenges do you face specifically as a young Black woman or girl that leads you to need self-care and wellness? Sydney?
One thing that I can say that I have definitely struggled with since leaving my parents' house and being in college, also due to the fact that the environment that I came from kind of switched. I was in a predominantly, African American environment, and then I moved, and now the amount of people of color around me isn't as much as what I'm used to and what I've grew up in. So I already had to adjust to that. And then also having the like expectations of me being a Black woman, always having to be strong, always having to be composed, unshakable, even when I feel like maybe I'm not just having that, like today's just not my day. Having to be, feel like I need to overachieve and be hyper visible but yet sometimes I'm still feeling undervalued by, some certain leadership in academic spaces. Even down to like having to navigate and balance, my authenticity, being professional, like things of that sort.
Mm-hmm. Understood. Sean, how about you? What challenges do you face specifically as a young Black girl?
Similar to what I said earlier, I did come from Prince George. I spent 3 years there, middle school and my first year of junior high. I personally did. I was around like a predominantly white and very mixed students and district. And coming here to Dinwiddie, I wasn't used to seeing as many Black people that I was now. And like I said earlier, I do struggle with like a fear judgment. And being that I spent a lot of time with like much more like mixed races, it's like harder for me to like feel like I'm fitting in and blending in with everybody else. Like, do I act like in a certain way? Like, do I act Black enough?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Understood.
and that was always kind of like a little bit of a worry for me, especially like when I came back, especially like coming back from a predominantly white school. That's always a worry in the back of my head I don't that I don't particularly fit in with my own community.
Oh,
That
yeah.
leaves me feeling
Well,
a
you
bit.
keep being you. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. What else were you saying, Sean?
I was saying that in a type of way, it is kind of like an imposter syndrome a little bit.
I completely understand. And seriously, continue to be you. Do not feel like you have to put on or have a mask or you have to fit any type of stereotypes. Just be you. Because secretly, many of the people who are judging you wish they were a lot like you. I promise you. Isamar, how about you?
I would say for me, given that I just graduated college, right? I think that shift in between undergrad and real life, right? Because when you're in college, that's not real life. It's kind of like a microcosm of a real society, and it's, four walls, if you will, the campus, right? And so I think navigating post grad is interesting, especially those first 5 years, finding your footing in the world and where you belong in your own life and on a grander scale. So I think that that has led me to self care even more so than undergrad, I think, because, you know, like Sydney said, I moved out of my parents' house, I moved states. It's a lot of different transitions, right? And I think some of the things like a girls' night or those things that you would just regularly do that ended up being self care, they're no longer there. You have to be a lot more intentional and you have to be a lot more keen on you, right? And so I feel as though that's probably the main challenge that I'm facing currently with post grad, transitioning, and also, getting into corporate America and navigating that realm. I went to an HBCU for undergrad. I'm at a HBCU right now. Shout out to Morgan State for my MBA online. So I'm an HBCU girly down. So corporate is not a HBCU by any means. And so just navigating that space and showing up as my entire self. And this kind of goes back to what Sean said in the beginning, the judgment piece, whether you're at work, whether you're in school, people are always going to judge you. We're human beings. You make up your mind about someone in the first 5 to 7 seconds that you see them, right? So I think navigating that space as well, those are probably the two challenges I'm facing now, but I can get through it and I know I can. So
Yes, you can. Okay, I think we have a few more questions before we get to the couple of questions in our Q&A. What are some misconceptions you may have held before about self-care and wellness? And anyone can take this. We don't have to go through all of them.
go ahead, Sydney.
I was just gonna say one of the biggest misconceptions that I had is believing that self-care always had to be luxurious or like expensive, when in reality it is anything that you make of it, and it can be consistent, it can be personal. It doesn't always have to be something that's so over the top.
Absolutely. Now, if anyone else wants to answer it, we can as well. I just want to make sure we're getting to all of our questions, or as many as we can.
No, we're good. We're good. Yeah, we can go to the next.
Okay, next question. Are there any specific policies that have recently impacted you in our nation or at your job, institution, and how have those shaped your need for self-care and wellness? Again, anyone can take this. Isamar?
Yeah, I'll take this. Recently at Wells Fargo, they made the shift to go 4 days in person, specifically for the division that I'm in, starting in the new year. Right now, we're 3 days, right? And I think that impacted a lot of people. And I think that policy specifically for me, it's definitely a little less impactful versus someone that has an entire family, someone that might be taking care of an elder in their family. It's a little different, right? And I think I can shift a little bit better than some of those people, right? But I think that it's made me even more intentional with that self-care, right? And putting in as much effort as I can during those 5 days of the week. That way, when that weekend hits, it can be for Isamar, right? And so I think that it just made me even more intentional. And I also think just diving into the benefits that they have, is very needed, especially in this climate of the country and things of that nature as well. So I think that's probably the policy that's impacted me recently.
Anyone else? Are there any specific policies that have recently impacted you?
One thing that I can say is CSU's California State Universities made a change in tuition within from I have been attending a CSU for 3 years now, and now this my third year of paying tuition at this school. The financial burden has been heightened for a lot of different students. So that's one policy that I can say. I mean, yes, more is being put into the school, but it's like that turnaround is not going to necessarily be as fast as me, learning in class and paying that amount at that moment. So it's just like that definitely it has impacted me a lot.
Yes. Sean, any policies recently that have impacted you?
No, not at my school. Not anything like official or anything.
Understood. Okay, next question. How does social media impact your need for self-care? Sean, how about we start with you?
I will say a couple of years ago, like when I was in 6th grade. It was my first year getting TikTok. I was super excited. My algorithm wasn't really programmed yet, and I was just like super excited. But I did notice like for like the first couple months, the theme was like a lot of girls, like a lot of super pretty girls, and that's all I would see on my page. Nothing that looked more like me, nothing more, I want to say realistic, I guess. And I guess that did kind of shape a little bit like of how I thought about myself for a long time. And that that did warrant a little bit of a need for self-care, especially when I got older and I realized and I figured out how to take care of myself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Sydney?
I definitely agree with the fact that social media at times has a way of only putting out the things that you want a person to see. So it's like you're never going to really get the full story when you see things on social media. You get what a person wants you to view. And so sometimes it's hard to take things face value when in the back of my mind I kind of know like it's kind of a facade in a way. And it like creates pressure to feel like you constantly need to achieve or appear being perfect, or it also that leads to like comparison fatigue as well.
Mm-hmm. Isamar?
Yes, I was going to piggyback off of some of those exact things that you just said. I think social media destroys your self-confidence. If you're not very careful and program your algorithm to look like you and to represent the things that align with you. And I think as well, the comparison fatigue as well, it's very real across all walks of life, right? And I think that, social media as well, it's a lot of venting, it's a lot of dumping, it's just a lot, right? To digest. And I think that my self-care now in terms of social media is looking like detox days, not picking up my phone as soon as I wake up, picking up my phone at a certain time, you know, I think deleting the apps once a week, things of that nature. Maybe only using the app for business or for maybe something I want to get off the ground. Or when I'm on social media, and all my friends and a lot of people that go to my alma mater could tell you, I'm constantly reposting opportunities, constantly reposting a scholarship, constantly reposting a quote, constantly reposting an outlet, a free this, a free that. So my peers can take advantage of the positive things that are out here on social media, right? And so I think it's impacted my self-care because I had to learn how to program my algorithm to generate the scholarships. So now the scholarships find me. I rarely have to look for these things, right? And I can share them and use social media in a positive way than what it has come to.
Thank you all for that. So now I'm going to go to the couple of questions that we have in the QA before we close out with some actionable items that our audience can take with them. And so one of the questions was, excuse me, how can adults be effective supports and allies to youth? Sean, how can adults be more effective supports and allies to the youth?
By just being there, I would say. And even if you don't realize it, try your best to not put out like any types of opinions that may oppose something, because like even like your child might have something they want to say to you, or they might be thinking about telling you, and one slip up, one thing that you might say might discourage all of that. So
Absolutely.
always
Sydney,
make sure, like, careful of what you say.
thank you for that.
I can definitely agree with Sean on treading carefully when having an open ear, because you know, youth, we are able to be molded. We're so it's just like um you would rather not put a person who trusts you in that manner in a situation to feel like when they come to you their ideas would be shot down.
Absolutely. Just for time's sake, I'm going to go to the second question, and I'm going to start with you, Isamar. In your words, how does self-care and wellness connect to activism and justice?
I think that that's a great question, and I believe that you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you want to benefit your community and improve your community, you have to start with yourself first. So I think that's how the two aligned. I think personally for me, I had to acknowledge my experiences and my entire self and kind of seek those things that I use to better myself. Like, I like to call it a board of advisors, people that will advocate for you in rooms that you're not in, people that will sponsor you as well, knowing the difference between a mentor and a sponsor. Doing those career development things. I had to better myself. Therapy as well. I'm a firm believer in therapy. And then I kind of give it to my mentees. I, post on social media. I create a page where I'm spreading opportunities and things of that nature. So I think that the two are directly correlated more than indirectly, which is a contrary to what most would think.
Absolutely. Sydney, in your words, how does self-care and wellness connect to activism and justice?
Quite honestly, similar to how Isamar was saying, you cannot be able to give if you yourself are not, filled up. It's very important to perform acts of self care to make sure that when you are in active activism, that you're able to give 110% every single time. Those things definitely coincide because of the fact that when you're not able to, when you're not at your 100%, you're not able to give 100%. So it's definitely a give and take type of thing.
Absolutely. Sean, do you have anything to add?
I completely agree with Sydney on that. You can't give out anything if you don't have anything to give yourself. You have to fill up your cup first to give to anybody before giving to anybody else.
Such wisdom from the youth. So I want to thank everyone for participating on this panel. I'm so proud of all of you. All this was a little biased, but maybe my favorite webinar facilitating. And now we're going to end out with three next steps. And so three next steps, and this is for the participants that are here. I know we got a couple of minutes, so I better end it. Create, this is what you can do. These are three next steps that you can take. Create a self-care ritual for yourself and normalize it in your daily life, whatever that looks like for you. Number two, identify groups and like-minded individuals who are supportive of wellness. And lastly, take time to care for yourself when engaging in community activism. I want to thank you all. Jake, do you have any parting words?
Yes, just a couple slides before I get into those. Yeah, I want to thank you, Sean, Sydney, Isamar, and Dr. Battle, all of you. That I'm like off camera, I was cheering, I was clapping, I was like, this was incredible. I'm absolutely floored. This was such an amazing webinar. You all did such an amazing job and gave us so many really thoughtful and transparent and insightful like stories, but also practical ideas of how people can incorporate this into their work. So huge thank you to you all. There's been a lot of love in the chat for you all, so thank you. For additional resources, as always, you can email us at collaborativewebinarseries@mentoring.org with any feedback or questions. We have at least 24, 25 amazing mentor affiliates across the country that can support you with your mentoring program with training, resources, public awareness, and advocacy. You can find those by going to mentoring.org/affiliates. Mentoring Connector, you could recruit mentors or also look for mentoring programs in your area by going to the Mentoring Connector, also found on our website at mentoring.org. And then last but not least, the National Mentoring Resource Center, funded by OJDDP. You can access more evidence-based mentoring resources and also apply for no-cost technical assistance for your mentoring program. Remember, as you're leaving, there will be a 3 to 4 minute anonymous survey for you to fill out to let us know how we did, let us know what you'd like to see in the future. And then again, within a week, you'll receive an email as well as it'll be uploaded to the website with slides, recording resources, etc. Join us next month. We'll have another group of young people discussing another topic, TVA, on November 20th from 3 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern. But thank you all so much for joining. Thank you for your engagement. It was so wonderful to see your ideas and comments in the chat. And of course, huge thank you to our moderator and panelists. You all did absolutely amazing. Hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.